So great. I just want to welcome everyone tonight. We're getting a few minutes started a few minutes past 7, but I want to welcome Mayor Masters tonight to my first Facebook Live for 2021. This is all kind of new technology for me. I did the last one in December with Chief Bray. So this is a great second start for the new, or first for the new year. So the reason I wanted to ask you, Mayor Masters, to join us is because many have asked me, what's it like working with the new mayor? And I thought this is a great opportunity for residents, my residents in my ward, but also across Regina who may be tuning in that want to know more about you and to have, a conversation. With COVID, it was very tough to get to meet anyone during the election time. So this is a great opportunity tonight to be able to ask you questions around the politics. I will ask that people just for ground rules to ensure that we're very respectful, and even in our questions that we want to ensure that we are, respecting each other's thoughts. I've never had a problem in any of my community meetings. So again, I'm grateful tonight to have the conversation with Mayor Masters. So
thank you.
Okay, so we're going to start off. First of all, the topic tonight is the vision for our city, and what your thoughts are about the vision, what you want to see in the next 4 years. And I know I've got people out there that want to ask some other questions about, what are the priorities? And I think tonight this is also an opportunity for both you and I to hear from residents in my ward as well, maybe in other areas, about some of the things that they would like to see in the next 4 years. So just if I can start there for that first question, is what is your vision and your thoughts?
I think it's a really difficult question to summarize in a sentence or two. And I'm asked often about, at the end of 4 years, what does success look like? And really, like, big picture is that people know a different story about Regina, which then means all things Regina are either told better or better, that we've defined a little bit more of who we are and who we want to be. We don't talk, for example, we don't talk about ourselves as an education city, but, not only do we have the University of Regina and Polytechnique, but we have the only First Nations university in Canada. We have the depot where we train all the RCMP in the country. And so we are an education city. We don't talk about ourselves that way. I think we're an amateur sports city. I think that we produce some of the finest young athletes of all shapes and sizes and all levels of competition. And I think we should really play to our strengths. I know that probably from a facilities perspective, we have some investment to do in infrastructure, but we also have some assets here which we could really leverage to kind of play to some of our strengths that others would probably kill to have. I think there's an item, there's an issue around inclusion that, it's interesting when you ask people what's the best thing about Regina, they say, there's that level of shared experience that we all have, that we all kind of have those moments of either being in Wascana Park or knowing if the Riders won a game, or it's being downtown at Folk Festival where you can touch people and go, oh, I know you guys have the best X at something, and it's kind of about building on that. We're not a natural destination place, but I think we have so many reasons to come and visit us. And we need to create more opportunity for that. From an economic perspective, we're an incredible city to locate. I think we are going to need to, I think biofuel is in our future. I really do. We're one of a few places in Canada that have an upgrader, and all of them are going to want to transition into green fuel going forward. And so I just think we're it feels like we're just about to take off. And it's about being an affordable city. We're such a great size in terms of, the ease to get around, even though sometimes, we get frustrated with 20 minutes. 20 minutes is pretty amazing in a major city. Yeah, and we have access to education, we have access to healthcare, we have access to beautiful country around us. We're just, I think we have a lot of reasons why businesses would want to grow here, why they would want to locate here. Again, go back to the university, we have a lot of skilled trades here. I just think we have so much going for us. We need to connect it all. We keep pulling threads together and kind of weaving them together. I really think we've got kind of something special. So we need to invest. We need to be an environment that people want to do business in. And we need to be inclusive, not just with not just with from a new Canadian Indigenous Métis perspective or visible minority, but inclusive in terms of marginalized areas of society, and really be able to pull some of that together too. Because I think really we should be judged in some respects from, you look at the person who's the most vulnerable, and what are we doing to advance them. And again, it's about improvement, and it's about continuously trying to be better.
No, absolutely. I think we've talked a lot about how can we move Regina forward, and some of the things that you did talk about. We know that Regina in the last year was one of the second fastest growing city for new immigrants, right? So new people coming here to make Regina their home. And so again, when you think of that, the impact of many different cultures coming here, but that also brings lots of other things, right, that we need to ensure that we are reacting to as well, right? So I would absolutely agree. One of the questions that I was also asked was about the efficiency review that you talked about on your campaign. And that kind of always comes up when I'm out, well, where is this at and how's it going to happen? And really, so just talking about what you really meant by that, and then also elaborating kind of how's it going to start and what does it look like to you?
So it's sort of already started, but I'm trying not to get out too far in front of my council. I think it's really important that people like my job is to, in terms of my initiatives, Lori, no different than some of yours, which are, you have a vision that you want to move forward or an item you want to move forward. You kind of have to pitch it to council in order to get the vote. So where the efficiency review is at, I've built it, and my council is going to hear about it on the weekend.
Okay.
Moving forward. So essentially the idea is the efficiency review, you have to hire a third party to come in and do that. And normally those are accounting firms. Well, almost always they're accounting firms, because they're going to come in, and the most other major cities or larger cities look at it and they break it up into phases. And so you'd pick off 6 or 8 different departments that you would dive into first. And, hypothetically, and again, this is in part up to council, but if you were to pick one of our largest budget line items, would be road renewal. And so maybe that would be one of the things you include in phase 1. So, Winnipeg's had them done. There's lots of cities in the Saskatchewan that have had them done. Just some recent ones that are being done. We know of one in Lethbridge, and they're phasing them in, and you go into specific departments. And the truth of the matter is we, like the city organization, the city, the beast as I call it does a lot of things really well. And in fact, other municipalities reach out into our city to determine some of our processes and whatnot to duplicate them. And so we're gonna see some of that, and that'll be a really great validation for the city operations. It's going to look for places to invest money. In a time of transformational change, whether that's COVID and allowing a little bit of restructure, but green energy is sustainability is much more ever present. There's that move to 2050. Giving instructions to the person, the organization doing the efficiency review, you can come at it from that angle with that lens as well. And so they'll be able to pull out and say, if you invest now or invest over the next 3 years in this particular element, you're going to get the return out you're looking for in terms of 2050. So there's really some synergies there with some of the other initiatives that I know council is chasing. And then the other one is they're going to look at things and say, test it against other municipalities where they say, this is costing you X amount of dollars per citizen. It costs this in these other municipalities. And here's why we think that is happening. So you're going to be able to chase down those costs. You're going to be able to remove a little bit of the red tape from, I suspect. And actually, on the other side of things, there may be some other ones where we're missing some risk that we're not addressing, that perhaps someone else has found. So it's, as I said, I pitched it to council on the weekend in terms of how I think it can be structured. And there would need to be an RFP then out to, hopefully in the month of February, out to the organization. And in the phase 1, based upon some of the conversations I've had, probably 6 months down the road, so into the summer, you'd get back kind of, call it 6 to 8 departments. You'd have that back. But you can do measured execution on it too. So depending upon what we get back as council and mayor from that, we're going to say, oh, this is great. Let's go into phase 2. Or, you know what, we'll cut back on, we're going to be able to have that discussion and work it through the budgetary items too, because you could push it into 2022 and kind of break the beast up into kind of a 3 years, because you're also going to need implementation on the other side of it. So in terms of city administration, someone within the administration kind of holds the transformation element of it, and then you're going to want to execute. But whatever comes back, council gets to talk about and go after. You go after the low hanging fruit always, and always. But really, from an investment standpoint, we're gonna get that first phase released just in time to start going into 2022's budget. So again, I mean, I think there's a lot of opportunity. I have not forgot about it. I will forever be tied to that efficiency review. And I'm really I'm excited, and actually I'm excited for council too, because it's probably going to give a different level of education that we haven't had before. We have an amazing city administration who executes. Their job is to keep everything moving on and delivering those services day to day. So sometimes to kind of pick up and refocus on something else isn't the best use of their time either. So
yeah. No, and I think with that, I think we've done, and I would say city administration has done a great job in finding efficiencies within. They've done it themselves, right? And I think, again, though, this is an outside coming in, which again is another big piece to something you may not have thought of. The other thing that I know that, for staff, it's also, I think, empowering staff, to look at it and say, okay, what am I doing in my job? What has changed that I do not have to do this any longer? And how can I coordinate with that with other staff to either, work in a different way, work smarter, more efficient, drop the stuff. This does not have to be done any longer, but I can take on this. So it's kind of the collaborative kind of way of moving it forward. So I've heard a lot of people that are excited about it. And I think they really just want to know. I think it's an outside perspective coming in. So I think that's really important.
well, and actually, if I could add on to that, it's an excellent point. The idea that I'm sure throughout our lives, we've all worked at a job where we're like, if someone would just ask me, I could tell them, and it's, right. It is actually one of those things that you, if an outside person is coming in to ask and they're asking from it without a vested interest, it's not, it's meant really to be, give us some innovative thoughts. Let's throw some things against the wall, and then test that against kind of, what other cities are doing. I think you're exactly right. I think that ability to kind of, again, I'm going to go back to, we got a lot of great people working within our administration who love their job, love this city, yeah. and really want to execute for the citizens. So, empowering that is, you're bang on.
Yeah, no, exactly. So I am starting to see a few questions come in. Don't be afraid to put your question in so we can kind of get them asked before the time is up. So there is one on the new pool, the community center to be built. So will Wascana Pool and Maple Leaf Pools be built and open for, I guess, for June still, or is COVID, I guess, on track? Is that on track? Is it still on track to be complete by this summer?
I think we've got an update on Wascana. I think there was a slight delay, and I forget if this was a materials issue. I think there's a slight delay on Wascana in terms of completion times. I think Maple Leaf was still on time. I think in terms of timing, in terms of the aquatic center, in terms of replacing the our aged and beautiful old Lawson, that's actually on track as well. In fact, it's undergoing some feasibility right now, not necessarily on design or whatnot, just trying to hash out some rough numbers, because we know there's some federal infrastructure dollars available in the next 3 years, but they sort of need to know about those projects. So administration is working hard right now in terms of coming up with some parameters for what that facility should serve in terms of both recreational and competitive sports, making sure we've got viewing sites, and then costing that out a little bit. So that's just the pool part of it. And I'm sure there'll be, how these things start. I'm happy to focus just on the pool as long as the ability to add on to it in terms of a rec facility as well. But, staged investment is smart. But let's take advantage. There's infrastructure dollars, and I'm tired of hearing it going everywhere else. I would really like some of it to come to our city, and it's about time. Actually, it'd be just a wonderful thing to have.
Yeah, I agree. I know council last year did designate 0.5 of the mill rate again, to recreation. So we knew that we did the recreation master plan and kind of knew that we had to put some dollars to it because of course, our recreation facilities are old and need to be redone. And so that was kind of the, putting the dollars there. So there is another question in regards to rec facilities suitable for multiple pickleball courts, and also any kind of talk about any other rec facilities for pickleball. And there's a big
Yeah.
pickleball push for this. I know that for a fact.
I
got it in there. Yeah.
I actually chuckle about this one. Honestly, before like 3 years ago, I'd never heard of pickleball. So seriously, good on you for raising
We'll have to get you up there. That's what we have to do.
I would love it. I absolutely would love it. We're talking about a female volleyball team, just so you know,
Yeah,
Lori,
okay.
as I know you're in.
That's it.
There is, in fact, looking at some of the existing facilities in terms of conversion. And so we know that depending upon kind of over the next few years, we think we've probably got some buildings already existing to make sure we can accommodate. Sorry, the lights just went out.
The power at City Hall. They're on a budget.
Do we want to talk about this? Someone just left the city clerk's office and shut all the lights out. That's fantastic. I'll turn it back on.
That's good. You're saving dollars.
I'm saving dollars. So if I all of a sudden get up and turn, oh no, there, I can see her running. She's running to turn the lights off. Sorry.
That's okay. We can still hear you. It's all good.
Listen, we're saving money here.
Exactly.
Sorry, back to pickleball courts. I think it's front and center. And in fact, I think there's a real focus, and we talk about, look for the silver linings in certain things. And I think COVID and that focus on when we're restricted in terms of the things that we desire to do, I think there's a real desire to make sure we come out of this with accessibility and just a diverse and creative set of activities to undertake. And so maybe that's because we're a winter city. Maybe that's indoor skateboarding that we can move outdoors in the summertime. And Lori, I know you've championed this in the past in terms of a winter strategy. And so pickleball falls within, hey, we need to make sure we've got some courts available because we know it's a kind of a burgeoning and increasing sport. So yeah, it's that's a really long way of saying, yeah, it's absolutely. Every time we look at a building, we're like, can we convert this into pickleball courts?
I know. And it is a discussion. And I think what's happening is we're seeing it happening around other cities that are doing it too. So I think, the talk is, where can we look at a facility, a properly planned facility for, both indoor and outdoor. So I know that administration have been in that conversation with the association as well, Pickleball Regina and others. So absolutely. So another question here from Isaac. How do you feel about the transportation options currently available in our city? Do we have enough options? And if not, what will you do to increase those?
So if we're talking about public transit, I think, kind of stepping into this this is one of those topics that I didn't have a full download on beforehand, and and there's a master transportation plan being looked at right now.
Yes, that's right.
So yeah, that's right. We're kind of, in some respects, as much as I love the size of our city and knowing that we need to grow a bit, we are in a bit of an awkward size. Like once you get into the 500,000 populations, you start to look into, other elements like rail and streetcar and all those kind of things. If you've ever been in Toronto, you kind of have an idea that there's other options. So now we have Uber, now we have taxi and whatnot. I think there's a bit of a push in terms of bike paths and that notion that we would like to move around and actually connect the bike paths so that, you can loop through. So that, I think, I've heard city council, different councillors different councillors speak to this in terms of we want a bit more of an option there. And that's probably where my knowledge of it probably ceases to this point. I know in terms of the sustainable city studies and the framework, transportation is one of those issues that they're coming forward with. Here's what other cities around the world are doing as well. So this is an education piece for me. Lori, I don't know if you have anything to add on that one.
Yeah, I do. I think that we actually, for the last, in this year budget for 2021, we are going to see increased funding for connectivity for bike paths and for connectivity there'll be some bike lanes as well, but connectivity into neighborhoods as well. So I think it's another a big piece. I think there's about, and don't quote me, but it's at least $1.5 million that will be going into connectivity bike paths. And we are seeing that, and those become walking paths, bike paths. But those, we've heard from the general public that families want to have more options to get out. I mean, for my example here, I mean, I don't want to see families on Arcola, and they want to connect and go into the parks from other neighborhoods. So, I mean, as long as we can start connecting the neighborhoods within, that's a big piece. And we've heard that across the city from other councillors as well. And I know they have a beautiful bike path up north. And it would be great to eventually somehow connect it so you can kind of go around the city for people who are ride their bike or walk or whatever. And I think we've seen with COVID, we want more activity. People want to have that option to do that. So that's a good question. In regards to the transit, I agree. The transit is a question that has come up over and over. And there is a need for transit in some of the areas to increase the time. Sometimes it only runs every hour. Now, depending on the demand for transit and how many people are on the bus, the city says, well, I'm not going to increase it if there's not many taking the bus. So to increase it, but many people then the other hand would say, gee, well, there'd be more people taking the bus if you increased the time. So it's the chicken before the egg, or again, but as the areas grow, we are seeing that there is a demand for transit. I know in the Greenstone Garden in my area, for sure, people want extended hours of transit. So that is something that is being considered. So Glenn asks, is there any chance for more or any snow removal for side streets? So obviously, Glenn, you're talking about residential streets. Snow removal on designated streets is good, so the arterial streets, but you're talking about the category 5, which are residential streets there. I can just ask that we did a winter maintenance review, and that goes over our policy. And, again, when we have a big dump of snow, like we did with that big wind, some of the roads got filled in, especially if you're in the outer area where the snow blows in. Some of those roads did become really full. So I know City of Regina was out clearing some of those, and they don't come and clear until it gets to so many centimeters of snow. But I will tell you that is one of the things that did come back, is they'd like to see maybe that reduced, so that you see it instead of once a year, or if there's only one big snowfall or two big snowfalls. Sometimes the ice builds up. This was a year where we had a lot of rain, and so there's rutting and things like that. So it is part of the winter maintenance review policy. But I urge residents to send in emails to say, this is what we'd like to see. When we get big dumps like this, even if it doesn't meet that centimeters, we need to ensure that at least some of the streets that are very narrow with parking on both sides need to be cleared. So again, that's kind of what there's no use complaining on Facebook about it. I always say just send a service request in, because that's how some of the decisions the city takes that information and utilizes it. So I hope that answers your question. Sandra, was there anything you wanted to add there?
Well, I just got educated by you too, so I appreciate that. I think that might be what, I've heard a little bit about frustration with snow removal sometimes, and then I've heard some kudos, because to your point, I think this time around, because of the wind blowing, they actually did tuck into some of them. We got some, I think the staff here got some kudos. But I'm happy to hear it's a winter maintenance review. But again, if the road budget is part of everything, it'll be interesting to see sort of in the efficiency review what comes out of that too.
Yeah. And I think what residents, and I know I've heard this, is we don't get all of a sudden we don't have a lot of snow. So it's, I mean, we see a grader going down and where are they going? But then when we get a big dump, then, they're not there.
Not
So
around.
I absolutely hear that. And we take that forward. Kellen says, speaking about green energy, is there any plans for the city to come out with any sort of support for people wanting to go more green? That's a good question.
That is a great question. Actually, I think that's part of what we're going to talk about later this week. So we do have a strat planning session, and we're trying to coordinate some of councillors' kind of initiatives to create some priorities. I can tell you that green is one of those priorities. We know that there's money federally, which means there's money provincially and then into the city. Yes, I in terms of an initiative, you want to support it. I do believe in incentives. And I do like that idea. I do have to get council to agree with that and come up with, what kind of program would work. But, anything that moves us all there is, yeah, I just think anything that moves us somewhere faster, knowing where we want to go, it is smart on behalf of the city. Lori, what do you think?
Yeah, we of course want to be a renewable city by 2050, and what they're doing too, as Sandra indicated, we're going to be having a discussion, actually getting a committee together that actually is going to bring forward some of these things. And this was one of the things that was talked about. And is it going to be in connection, in communication with the provincial government to come up with something as well, that we can kind of work collaboratively with it, so we can get people thinking about solar and using other kind of, as we're developing in new areas, new homes, is there some incentives even on older homes if they want to put more efficient appliances, and if it's a solar or whatever it is on their home. These are some of the things that we are talking about. So that will come out of that committee that will be starting within the next few months. So absolutely. So that's a great question. Trevor asked, any plans on moving the truck stop out by the bypass? I'm still seeing a ton of trucks taking the easy route through the city instead of around. Yeah, now this was, Trevor, a big conversation, and there is actually a report coming back here in the Q1. Councillor Mancinelli brought a motion for 9th Avenue North to take the big trucks off of there. And so with that report, I did ask about Arcola and asked about how do we, can we remove this as a major truck route? And they're going to bring back a report to find out what the impacts are of all of the truck routes that go around Regina, to see where these, if we stop doing Arcola, then the next piece, they should be able to take the bypass. And that would be including also the Department of Highways as well in that conversation, and SAS Trucking, and that will be coming back. But I agree, the bypass was built for a reason, and I know that you get the same old, I guess you're used to the road you take. But I think that now that the bypass is built, there would be no reason that those trucks, unless they're a delivery truck, that they should be on Arcola. The other ones, if they're heavy route, heavy big trucks with the big tankers, that's a concern for me. I know it's a concern for some of my residents, as we've got a school 2 blocks down. So that is going to be part of the conversation that we do have when this comes in Q1. So I'll keep my residents posted for sure. Has anyone looked at the old Costco building for a new rec center? I will say that I've made the call a couple times. One was for parking for the football games, because we lost our Victoria Square back a year ago. I remember calling them, and there was no interest at that time for looking at that to be a drop off. And then as far as a rec center, now that one I haven't looked forward. We could take that forward. I don't know, Sandra, have you ever heard of that at all? Or
I have not heard of that. I love the creativity of people, though. It's smart in terms of, speaking of pickleball courts.
So there you go. No, but that's a good point, Rory. We can take that one forward, but to see if what the plan is, because there's a big gap there. And I will say also even for the business owners in that area, we were told there was going to be a car dealership going in there. And so it was going to create still something, some business, right? But then it's now sat idle. So I will follow up on the Costco and see kind of what the plans are for the next, and then we can take that forward collectively to find out what they're doing there for any recreation, or if it could even be rented. Cam, has anyone tried to use the new bike path on Park Street this winter? It's not maintained and a horrible waste of resources. People are now riding in the middle lane on the Park Street as the bike lane is unusable. The regular bike lanes are fine and should be expanded. So I know the ones you're thinking about there on Park Street. There was, again, I'm not sure that decision. I wasn't notified. It's not in my area, but I did see it when it was being developed. And again, we don't have that anywhere else in the city. This was the first one that they've done. And I did happen to go by, and I agree with you that if we're going to have bikes on that path, they should be cleared. It wasn't cleared, but I know it was slushy too with all the melting. But I will take that forward for sure. And I again, as to the waste of the resources of people trying to ride in the middle of that defeats the whole purpose. That's why that bike lane was put in there. So we'll take that away for sure. Janice, is there anything that can be done with the abandoned condo building on the corner of Green Apple Drive and Chuka? Oh, it's a great question though. That was started 8 years ago and was becoming an eyesore with broken windows and falling down temporary fencing. How long before this can be addressed? So since I've been elected, I've reached out to the developer of that at the time when it was the developer. It's fallen to the bank and it's now in the courts. And so when it's in the courts, there is nothing else that we can do. As a city, we have to wait till it comes to the courts. And I know it's been, at least this is going to be my 5th year and longer than that since it has been abandoned. And so I call when the fencing is down. So every time bylaw has to come out, they go and they, have to connect with a fine and, put that on just again, we were trying to do that to get the developer to move forward, but that never happened. It went to the bank and now it sits in the courts. So again, at any time, I can't get any information from where that is. That's all left until I guess it comes for sale again, I guess. Is that how it would be? So there's nothing else that I can do within my reign. But one of the things I will say we are working on so this doesn't happen again, and I call this building my Capital Point 2 because it's now a building. It's not a hole, but it's a building that sat there. So really, we are asking the provincial government for some levers that we can put in as a city. We couldn't do it with Capital Point, and we didn't do it with this one. We don't have that authority. We have to get the okay from the provincial government, and that's under it's the UBASA Act, which is gives us the levers if we want to say, okay, we're going to pose a fine or we're going to hold back if you do not develop within so long. So this is something that we have sent to the provincial government, and we are working with them to try and get some levers that help us. So, and Mayor Masters probably doesn't know where that is, but I'll take her for a drive one day and show her the. Okay.
Regretfully, I do know where that is.
And, you probably heard about it.
I did. I do know where that one is. Yeah. It's it looks abandoned and strange.
Yeah. And sad for our community, right? Because we want to get it going and get it vibrant, and it sits there. So hopefully, whenever I have more information, I will repost. Is there any course? Please redirect railroad or overpass on Ring Road and the trains through town. Thanks for listening. Okay, so redirecting the rail lines. I guess Winnipeg Street is an option, Sandra, that we're working on. Do you want to comment on that one?
I think right now what they're looking on, all of the bridges have engineering studies done on them, and they're stress test regularly, just in terms of maintenance. And so Winnipeg Street came up, overpass over Ring Road, and there was some discussion as it relates to if you have to go back and do bridge repair and maintenance anyways. Would you at that time create the overpass create the overpass over the rail to kind of extending the bridge one way to extend it also the other way to take it over the rail. So that's what's being studied this year. It was kind of already in process, and they'll determine, the viability of that afterwards in terms of moving. Stopping on Ring Road and waiting for trains is, we hear about it. Anybody who ever has to take that Ring Road, we hear about it often, but that is underway this year in terms of that study and coming back with some costing on it.
Yeah, that's right. There was a question here in regards to the big clothing stores like Aldo and Gap and Roots. They've left Regina. Why can't we keep going good clothing stores in Regina anymore? And is it under the mayor's domain? Economic development?
Do you know what? I think I'm not sure. Yeah, I think this is part and parcel a little bit of the economic development that we talked about, both Lori and I talked about earlier. But ultimately, at the end of the day, retail is changing. It's transforming a little bit, and COVID probably put that sort of on hyper speed, where people switched a little bit more to online. And so they're probably going to go, some of these places are going to go to either one shop in the province or no shops in the province, and kind of, in some respects, rewind the clock. But the accessibility is still there because of the internet and because of being able to order online. So I do think that economic development and creating jobs here so that the economy hums along, and that we have amenities that people want to come visit and spend money in those shops. We're 237 or 240,000 people, but really our catchment area is 500,000. And so being able to attract folks in to do things in our city, to spend money at those shops is part of the answer as well.
Right. Yeah. Great point. I see people saying thank you for the mayor to join our community. So that's really nice. Also, we've, let's see here. It says, can you send a few graders out on the residential streets? Again, it's getting tough out there. So yeah, we'll make a note of that for sure. Again, I know that there's some that really are rutted. And I think that's the concern too, is that once you've got the ruts, it's hard to get out of that rut. So absolutely, we could, I'll send what I can here. Also, another, yeah, let's see here. The question was answered. So we also have an opportunity here. Let's see. One of the things I know, Mayor Masters, is that we've talked about in our community, and I don't know if you've heard about our COLA. That's another big one that's kind of come up. And, looking at the widening of our COLA and where that's at. And I know this year there's supposed to be a study on that, looking at kind of now that the bypass is opened. And just with that, there's going to be kind of a conversation, or after the study comes back, the next steps for our COLA. And because I think one of the big things here in the Southeast, we are kind of an island on our own. We have a gateway in and a gateway out, and that's the bridge. And so I know that that's been something that has been talked about for a while in our community. And then I know a high school was another big one. And I know that I've hosted many community meetings in regards to that, with the MLAs as well, and also school board, both Regina Catholic and Regina Public, and talking about kind of the need for the new high school out here. And I know that it is getting closer to the top of the list, thank goodness, because we are the second fastest growing community in Regina, and it's absolutely needed. So one of the, okay, here we go. Is there a bus rapid, any plans for a new garbage dump? And I'm not sure if they mean recycle or a whole new garbage dump. I know that we've put a lot of dollars into our dump, and I'm sure there's another nicer name than dump, but we have we've got, what we did is we actually have done put some money there, because we know that if we do not do something with the green bin, we know that I think our landfill has 23 years left. So we knew that if we get people starting with the green bin, that is something that will reduce that. It will give us longevity for that. And we can utilize that composting for other things in the city, and residents are able to utilize it as well. So I think that that is, I'm not sure if, because I know right now the municipalities around Regina do use our landfill as well. Landfill is the correct word there. So in regards to that question, there's another piece of recycle, where you can drop off your recycle. And I know they've increased that in across the city. And I know that we have it at the Sandra Schmiller, and they are looking for other locations, because there is a real demand for dropping off. We want people to drop off their recyclables. So I know that is very important to people, and that is coming to my residents as well. So
actually, along that point, I think a lot of the technology that is being worked on right now, like some of it even happening at our cultivator here in the city, is about waste diversion and how to use those products in, as Lori mentioned, in whether that's fertilizer or feed or whatever else you can convert that product into. So there's a lot of innovation going on about this right now. So I think the intention was to try and get a third more of a life out of something. So if you divert enough waste, can you extend another 10 years? But ultimately, right, at some point in time, that landfill's, we're going to need a new spot for it. So
yeah, good point. Was there a bus rapid transit study done?
Being done right now, I believe, right?
Yes, there is a consultation being done in regards to seeing what other cities are also doing in this regard, to see if that would be something that we would, could look at here. But that's still being considered. Yeah. Our street on Goldfinch was cleaned up today, so thank you. Can we get slower traffic, keep right signs on Ring Road? There's always someone going 90 in the left lane. Well, that would be
whoever you are, bless you.
Thanks, Peter, for that question. That's something we have to take with the province for sure. That's the Ring Road, not the bypass. Okay, we can take that.
I'm thinking we can take that forward. That's
not the bypass, that's the Ring Road.
Yeah. That speaks to me, I gotta tell you.
When you take it a lot. Are there any plans to twin Woodland Grove Drive? And no, there is not. We had this conversation over a year ago. I did host a meeting on that one, and there was consultation with city staff. And again, it's a kind of a narrowy roadway, and it's not an arterial, it's a collector. So at that time, it was deemed that it'll stay single for the way it is. And then, as you move down further, because it ends at Houghton. And so, we're going to see how the traffic increases there. But once I think you open up into the greens, from the roads going east and west, hopefully it'll take some traffic off of Woodland Grove Drive. But no, I really did try and advocate for looking at adding an extra lane on there. And again, as it sits now, it'll stay as a single lane roadway. Dan says, widening Arcola, we need transportation master plan, not a more road plans, not a more road plans. Okay, yeah, we still do. There are, again, people, we are a car culture, And as many we want people to get on transit, that's one thing, but we have to ensure that our transit it's running efficiently. It's not just running morning and evening. But I think at the end of the day, we know that we are still very much a car culture out here in the suburbs anyway. And I don't really see that changing. And it's until transit gets up to, it's actually doesn't take you longer when you hop on a bus, and you can get there in 15 minutes in a car, or sometimes on transit it's 40 minutes or 45 minutes. It's not efficient. So we have to work on that if we really want to get more people on there on transit.
Well, and
Go ahead.
sorry,
Yeah.
I'll just add, I think the other thing that's important is that we're not, we don't move things by boat here. We move them in large part by truck. And so goods to market, whether in import or export, are always going to come in to us. I don't think there'll be cargo planes landing. I just think they're always going to come in vehicles in terms of deliveries and whatnot.
Yeah, good point. Again, a few minutes here. Thank you for listening. Will there be a dog park in the Southeast? And there was a dog park that was looked at on Doan Drive there, and that was deemed a municipal, and it's still being talked about and being researched if that's the right location for a municipal. A municipal is a larger dog park. And, I think that we have a lot of vacant land, out in the greens behind, like there's city land behind Save on Foods in there. So, I mean, it depends on how large this is, but there was talk about looking at that little piece on Doan. And, but you also were trying to connect with 3 different churches there to utilize the parking lot and things like that. So that will be coming up this year for discussion as to where one is going to go, but we do need to get one for sure in this area. Sorry. Will there be a review for our recycling program? Seems like we don't handle as much material as other major cities' plastic bags. So as the recycle program comes forward with the green bin, that will also be looked at, right? As to scrape the plate with the green bin, they'll be looking at the recycling program to see kind of what other things can go in there as well, to get the plastic bags. One of the biggest impacts is that of course China shut down all of the plastics that could be shipped there. And that's been caused a real crisis across North America, not just here in Canada. But I know there is just even looking at different grades of plastic, things like that, getting it more so you can get more plastics in the bin. So absolutely. Jeez. Okay, so there's and I'm not sure, we can forward this to Councillor Mole as well. He said, my councillor is Landon Mole and has recently addressed the single entry exit safety issue in Hawkstone and was wondering if there was an update on this by chance. I'm not sure, but you know what, we can get Councillor Mole to follow up with you, Thomas, for sure on that. Why do we not reserve lands in the suburb approvals for dedicated rapid transit? I don't know. Again, that's something that, we don't, when we talk about reserve the land out here, it's owned by the developers. I mean, the only land that the city owns is in the towns. But to look at, taking some land and looking at a rapid transit, that would have to be something that, where would that happen? I guess like that's the bigger conversation, and that happens around the transportation master plan. And again, there was talk about kind of having a master location to drive and drop your car off and hop on the bus, that kind of a thing. But it was nothing with the rapid transit. That rapid transit discussion has only started, so we're not there yet. But why we haven't dedicated the lands is because we've probably never had the discussion before about rapid transit. We're only there now. 40% of the parking downtown is parking. Can something be done about that? Well, that's all we've heard about parking downtown. And again, Sandra, do you want to take that one?
Sure. Uh, yeah, we go from people complaining there's not enough parking to clearly there's people like it. There's lots of parking downtown, too much. The reality is that some of those lots are attributed to the buildings beside them. So when you have something like the Balfour residence, there's going to be parking lots for the residents there. Those make perfect sense. In terms of temporary parking, all parking is temporary. If you're economically vibrant, parking lots disappear like nobody's business. The truth of it, we're just not having a lot of building going on downtown. In fact, I would think that the third tower was the last time we had a major construction project downtown. Coming out of COVID, when there's now going to be some discussion about some federal agencies aren't even going to return to work full-time, full-time in the office. We have some challenges. We need building downtown. Frankly, we need residents downtown. We need main floor commercial with a whole bunch of residents. Residents make things safer. And when you're building those, you're typically building some underground parking. And then there's some surface as well, but there's lots of that. So it's a challenging situation, and we need people to build on those sites. Although when I look out my office window, I do kind of chuckle and wonder, could we just make every second one like an ice rink in the wintertime? That would be great. You could skate downtown. But yeah, honestly, we need buildings to go downtown, which is going to be a bit of a concern considering we're probably going to end up with an increased office vacancy rate. But if we can figure out a way to incentivize people to build residents like condos or apartments downtown, that's going to be part of the solution.
Yeah, no, and I think that's a good point. I think with COVID, it's taught us something that many people are probably going to be working from home, half the time anyway. So again, that's just a whole nother, as we're learning how this is going to work, but a good consideration is to, we just don't want it to be a parking lot downtown. We want there to be an economic impact so people can go down there and enjoy what they're enjoying. Just a question, and I'll just got a couple more here I'll take, but it was announced several months ago that Regina would start enforcing the parking tickets for the vehicles parked longer than 24 hours on residential roads. And there was a significant concern from people discussing this on Facebook when it was announced in Calgary, Saskatoon, Edmonton allow 72 hours. As far as I can tell, Winnipeg, Red Deer, and Medicine Hat, and Vancouver, etc., have no time restrictions. Is this something that the city would consider? And I know I can just add, and then Sandra, if you want to add on to it, but we did go back and reinstate that 24-hour parking. And I'll give you an example. In residential areas, the only reason that bylaw is called out, if you see bylaw, is your neighbor has called, or someone in your community has called about a car that's been there longer than 24 hours. So it's not just bylaws. Bylaw does not just drive around in residential areas. Like I'm talking in my ward, they don't just drive around and say, oh, okay, that car has been there. They have to get a call to come out and do that. The second thing I want to point out is that I did get calls with cars that were just parked there with a whole bunch of stuff in them, and they hadn't moved for a month. And so again, if the car is parked there and they're working from home is different, and then they kind of leave and they come back and they come back. But if they're just parked there on the street, I think that does become a real concern for residents. So that's why it was kind of brought back in, because we were getting so many more complaints about cars and they didn't even have Saskatchewan plates on some of them. So again, we have to really, it's finding that balance about how do we make sure that, cars aren't just being, moved to areas because they can't park in front of their home or don't have enough parking, which is another concern sometimes, right? So I don't know, I can't say that we go back to that because I know we're working on it, but I mean, I'll let Sandra respond to that. If you want to add anything on there.
It's actually what I find interesting about this is why ours is 24 hours and not something different. Like to me, it's always, I go back to why was 24 hours deemed to be the number? Like clearly, frankly, people tend to drive these things, and someone like your faithful councillor brings them forward based upon residents raising the issue. So if it's at 24 hours and we have other cities at 72, like, I'm curious about that. But going back to Lori's earlier comment about being a car dependent culture, like it's part of it is you can have a household that has 4 cars, and if 2 of them are constantly parked there, I suspect that that's a little bit of a driver as well. It's just making sure that people aren't using the streets as parking lots, and they're because remember, we have a lot of parking lots downtown.
Yeah.
I'm just teasing. But I, everything is always up for review. Like, if we would like to think that we continue to change as a city and we continue to evolve, well, I'll go back and ask the question, why was it set at 24 hours, and kind of what are other cities doing? I think it's valid. I think it's a valid test of a really kind of simple bylaw.
Yeah, good point. One of the other ones is kudos to the staff for keeping the walking paths cleared in the winter. And that was something that was brought about 2 years ago. And I remember the motion to do it. I brought it, and it was about $49,000 to get all of the park pathways cleared in the winter. And it was one of the best, I have to say. People were so grateful that they can get out and walk in the winter. And now we see with COVID how much of an impact it is. But I was that was for moms that had strollers, and people who just want to get out and walk. So again for the dollar amount, and to see the health and the well-being to get out and walk, I mean, it's great. So I think kudos to the staff, because they do a really, really good job of doing that, for sure. To Kelly, can we not charge more for surrounding municipalities to bring garbage to our landfill if we need to upgrade? And we do get a fee from the surrounding municipalities, from the RMs. There is a fee, and I think it's something collected also connected with the provincial government. And don't quote me, but I know that there was a discussion that I did ask that question. How do we become the regional landfill? And we do get some dollars, but because I think the provincial government is asking all of the municipalities around had to close their landfill, and so that's why they have to use ours. So it's again, we do make money because they come and they have to pay to use it, but still, on the same token, there is some kind of an agreement there. But Kelly, if you want more information, for sure, send me an email and I can get you exact details on that. Appreciate the initiative to connect with residents of the city. And just probably one of the last questions we'll do, our time is here. Back to recycling. It sounds like it may be an excellent opportunity, or an employment opportunity, to start processing recyclables here instead of sorting them and shipping them out. And right now, Mterra does all of our sorting, and they're located all across Canada, but they are here, and they do that for us. But there has been some talk of, looking at how could we, start looking at doing some of these things here, depending on, the initiative of what it is. But other cities have started to look at this as well. And again, I mean, I know we have an incinerator at the landfill that burns and I think the profit is about $1 million a year that we make on that. And that's great. I mean, again, we're burning the garbage, and it's something that, again, we're looking at there as well, to increase that as well for the landfill too. So those are. I hope I've asked everybody's question. I tried to catch everything I can as well. I guess the last one is. There was one question on here, the Woodland Grove intersection. It's a 7-Eleven and a gas station, what the development is there, and it's going to be a coffee shop and a few other things. And one of the things that we heard is that people want more of a hub, a neighborhood hub, right? To go and have coffee and walk to. These neighborhood hubs kind of build community in there. So that's something that that residents are really wanting, and I hope that we see more of those. I find a lot of road lines in Regina to be almost non-existent. Can we look into some painting options that can stand the harsh winters, or an annual painting? What would be your solution to this for the painting of the road lines? That's a good question. They do seem to get fainter every year, and then I'm not sure how often they are painted, but I know they did put something in the budget this past year, probably every year. But that's something, I don't have that answer. Sandra, do you know anything on that?
No, I don't. And if I recall correctly, we don't even we don't do our own line painting. It's something that's contracted out, and that's a really good question. I'm going to take that one away if that's okay.
Yeah, for sure. I think
Yeah.
yeah. So I guess I just, I want to say thank you to everyone for chiming in tonight, and having the conversation with our mayor to give some just thank you for taking the time to be with us. I know that everybody wanting to get to know you, but also just having a conversation with the community is vitally important. I guess my residents, we will be having our next one next month on February 18th, and City Manager Chris Holden will be here, and we're going to be talking about kind of the COVID recovery, because we have been impacted by COVID financially. And so it's just kind of a conversation of how are we going to, from his perspective, what are some of the things that we have to do, and where we've had to kind of decrease some of the things, services, or things that we can do just to get through COVID. So it'll be another great discussion, and I look forward to your questions and always helping us find solutions, because that's we can't do this job, and I can't do this job without hearing from you, for sure, because you give me the ideas, or us the ideas, to take them forward, and that's why this is very important to do. I want to say, Mayor Sandra Masters, thank you for joining me tonight, and my residents. And I look forward to the next 4 years. I appreciate the openness and just the, wanting to embrace our community and our whole city with a new vision and some new ideas and fresh ideas. So again, just as a councillor, I'm glad to be part of the team, and again, taking my residents' views forward to make our city even better, which I think we all want. So,
well, I would just say thank you. Thank you to the residents that are on the line. And thank you to you, Lori, actually, as you really do set the bar quite high for in terms of community engagement, and just making yourself available and literally bringing forward those ideas all the time. If that's what everybody did, we would definitely be moving ourselves forward faster too. So kudos to you, and thanks to all the residents. I'd be happy to join again down the road. It'd be nice to get some things moving that, 6 months from now we could start explaining, kind of what we've learned along the way, or what I've learned along the way. I'd love to touch base again. Thank you so much.
Okay, absolutely. Again, thank you to everyone joining tonight. And again, reach out anytime. You've got my email as well, and my phone number to connect. And we're still in a pandemic and COVID, so I wish everyone well. Stay healthy, stay safe, and we'll talk soon. Thank you very much.